Hello and welcome to another edition of Tribulation Ready Survival. I'm Michael.
Donna.
And we are finally getting to the canning videos that we have promised. This will be part one, or episode one, in a multi-part series. Today we're going to be canning pears. These are Anjou pears that we have foraged, and we've actually saved this part just for the video. We actually canned an entire wheelbarrow full, and I'll include that video, or that picture here in a little bit. Join us today as we go about showing you how we can pears for long-term storage. Okay, so in today's video, the pears that we're going to be using, these are Anjou pears, which we foraged from a pear tree that we've been foraging for the last couple of years. I got a little overzealous this year, and I just lost track. And we harvested these a little bit early, which is fine. You can harvest them off the tree and let them ripen, which is the best way to do it, is let them ripen off of the tree. And so hopefully when we get this video out, it'll be time for you guys to start harvesting your apples and pears. And so
we're going to do it in sections so you can pause the video and follow along with what we're doing. So real quick, let's talk about what you're going to need ingredient-wise if you're doing this. You're going to need some lemon juice. You're going to need sugar, cinnamon sticks, and white vinegar, and of course water, and of course your pears.
We will post a link to the recipe that we're using down below. Okay, so for the equipment in this canning project, you're going to need, these are pint jars. You can also use quart jars. Wide mouth or regular mouth, either way, it's your preference. You're going to need one, in case here we have two, one jar lifter, and we also have funnels. You're going to need some funnels. These are very, very important. It helps keep your product from touching the rims of the jar as it goes in. It helps to keep it clean. You're going to need one of these collapsible pan covers or protectors that goes in the bottom of your pan. This helps your jars to sit on top of this so that they're not in contact with the pan. If that does occur, it has a better chance of cracking the jar. So I'm not sure what this is called, but it's a stand for the jars to sit on. You're going to need a vegetable peeler. We got one there. We have another one here, different style. This one's actually used for zesting, and it's my favorite. Since we're doing pears, you're going to want to core them, so we also have a pear or apple corer here. We have a gap measuring tool, and it's graduated on this side. It'll tell you quarter inch, half inch, 3/4 inch. So it's measured here, and we'll show you how to use this device here in a minute, but this is a gapping tool. And in my case, I'm going to use my sanitized, very sharp bushcraft knife. You always want a sharp knife here when you're working with vegetables and stuff, just in case you got to cut something off. And then, of course, if you haven't seen it already, we've got two cutting boards, one underneath here and one underneath here. This is to keep yourself from cutting on your countertop and scratching it and whatever. The next thing you're going to need, in our case, we have a bowl of pears. This is a small batch. We did almost 30 jars the other day, and this is the last batch we thought we'd save for a video. So on top of that, you're going to need a large tub. In this case, we have a large plastic tub that we're going to fill partially with water, fill with lemon juice, and as we're peeling, because the peeling is going to take quite a while, especially when you're doing, like we did the other day, 200 or 300 pears, you'll put the pears in here in a little bit of a lemon juice solution to keep them from browning. So a big bucket like this is important. And then finally, you're going to need a very deep stock pot. This will have the jar, the lifter on the bottom of it, not lifter, the black pan, bottom of the pan cover. So this is where we're going to do the water bath canning inside of this pan here. And then another big pan, we call this Grandpa's pot. And that pan is going to be for us to make our syrup solution with the pears.
Okay, so the pears are already washed. I don't think I have to tell you that. What we're going to do next is we're going to take the pears and just peel them. So, I'm a farm girl. My family kind of laughs at how fast I go, but take your time.
This type of work is going to take, depending on how many pears you have, it's taken us 2 or 3 hours to peel all of the pears.
So we're going to take the pears. I don't like to use the core. Mike likes the core, but you do it however you want to do it. Cut the middles out and cut up the pears, and we're going to put it in the water.
So you're cutting it into quarters?
Yes.
Okay. Cut it in quarters, throw it in the solution, keep it from browning. And you're going to do all your pears at once?
Yes.
Okay.
So get your pears ready, and we'll come back when we get them all peeled and cut.
Well, we're done peeling the pears. That took about 45 minutes or so. And so we've got our pears soaking over here in our lemon solution. We've got our peelings over here, which could be composted if you want to, but we've also saved 1 cup of the peelings, and that will be introduced in another video where you can make pear vinegar, pear cider vinegar. So, we're going to move on to making the syrup.
Okay, so we're going to start with 8 cups of water. You can double this depending on how many pears you have. We didn't have a lot of pears left. So 8 cups of water. We're going to do 2 cups of sugar. And stir it up really good. And 2 cinnamon sticks. We're going to turn that on so that it can boil. And when it's boiling, we'll add the pears in it.
And we're going to a medium heat.
Yes, and melting, or getting the sugar dissolved into the water. Okay, as you can see, our syrup is boiling. So we're going to set a timer for 5 minutes and add the pears when the timer goes off. All right, our timer's going off, so we're going to shut that off. And we're going to add the pears. And you're going to want to do this carefully because it is boiling. But you're just pulling them out of the lemon water to put in here. We're going to let this come to a boil again, and once it comes to a boil, we'll let it go for another 5 minutes to let the pears get all the flavor in them. Alright, so as you can see, we have it at a rolling boil, so we're going to set the timer for 5 minutes and then we'll be back. Alright, our timer went off. I'm going to shut the pears off. And as you can see, I'm just putting the funnel in a jar. I've just pulled them out of the dishwasher. And I'm just going to start filling them up. We need a little bit of headroom.
Now, what is headroom?
That means the room at the top, so we need just enough room so that it will seal.
Okay, and this is the gapping tool.
This is our gapping tool, so you can see we want the top of that to be touching or close to that.
Okay, so we got the right gap.
If you're awesome like our friend, she doesn't have to do it all the time.
So we're going to fill as many jars as we can, just like we did on the first. And once we fill all the jars, we'll get right back to you.
All right, so we have all our jars filled up, but we need to wipe the rims off so that our lids will adhere to the jars and they'll be sealed. So how we're going to do that, we're going to use some vinegar. And we're just going to wipe the edge of the jar where the rim, where the rubber on the lids. So there's the lid, so that will seal on there. We only want to use that side once so the sugar doesn't go from one jar to the next one. So the first jar, I use that side. Now I'm going to fold it and I'm going to use the other side.
And this is one of the reasons why we use a funnel, to try and keep the edges as clean as possible to make this process as easy. So try not to be sloppy is what it comes down to, and still clean the rims of your jars.
As you can see, I used 4 sides of that, so now I got to switch. The jars are hot because they've been in the dishwasher. We took them out just whenever it was ready, and the solution inside the jars is hot. So be careful you don't burn your fingers.
Go.
So now we're just going to lay the lids on top of the jars. And then we're going to do these only finger tight. So not real tight, only finger tight.
And the reason we're only going to do these finger tight is because that will allow for the air to come out of the lid, and the lid itself to vacuum seal onto the top of the jar.
Okay, so now our big red pot. If you have a stove that your eyes are working on your stove, our stove, all the eyes aren't working, otherwise we could have already had this going. But only one big eye is working. So for your big pot, you're going to put this in the bottom. If you don't have that, a towel works. And we're going to start arranging jars down here. You can have water in there already going, and you can lift the jars like this and put them in the already boiling water. That's not happening for us, so I'm just putting them in. But you're going to arrange as many as you can get so they're not shaking around and breaking.
And in this particular case, we have only one pot. So we're going to have 2 jars that we have to come back after this set and do another 2 jars.
So since they're hot, we're going to add warm water and not cold water because we don't want them to crack.
So when we add the water, we're going to put in warm water, and we're going to cover the jars about a ½ inch over the top of the jars.
So I'm going to turn this back on so we can get it boiling. This handy little thing will keep your jars down where they're supposed to be. We're going to put the lid on it. Once it boils, we get it to a rolling boil again, we're going to let it process for 25 minutes. So right now we're just in a waiting game.
Okay, so the cans have come to a rolling boil. And now we have set our timer for 25 minutes. And after 25 minutes, we will take the cans off of the eye, turn the temperature down, and let the cans cool off just a bit so that when we take them out and subject them to the room temperature, the jars are not going to crack. And we will go from there in just a moment. So, it's been 25 minutes. We're going to take the jar holder off.
We're going to let this set for a few minutes.
Turn the heat off. Let it sit for a little bit. Go ahead.
Let it cool off a little bit.
And the reason that we're doing that is because the jars will come out. The house is air conditioned and we don't want the jars to crack.
Alright, so now we're going to take these out. And I've got a towel over there and we're going to wrap them up.
Using the jar lifter.
I'm going to do all of those. So we're lifting out.
And placing.
So I'm just patting the water off the tops. We're going to cover them up so they don't get too cold too fast. And we'll leave them there for 24 hours. And when they're completely, we've waited 24 hours, the seals can all be
Popped.
I couldn't think of the word for some reason. I will write on the top what they are and what the date was.
And it may take anywhere from 5 minutes to 10 hours for these to seal. And when we're done, we're going to take the rings off of the lids. And the reason that we're going to do that is we'll store them without the rings on the top is so that we can tell if there is a false seal on one of the jars, and we store it that way. If they're sealed, they're very secure. There's not, anything that's going to happen with that. But you want to catch any false seals just in case, so you put it in your storage, and you have one that's not sealed all the way, and come to find out it's got stuff growing in it, starts smelling, and it's just bad deal. So.
We're going to show you, we only have 2 left that we weren't able to fit in the first batch. That's not enough, so
We got to keep these jars from tipping over.
we're going to add other jars into the mix.
We're going to fill this back up, just like we originally did. She's going to put a smidgen of vinegar in there, and we'll fill it to the point where it is about a ½ inch over the top of the jars, and we'll continue the process as we did before. We'll get it to a boil. Once we get it to a boil, we'll set a timer for 25 minutes. After that 25 minutes of it boiling, we will turn it off and let it cool down just a little bit, and then we'll take the jars out and cover them up. Well, that concludes our video today on canning pears with a cinnamon syrup. We thank you for spending that time with us today, and we would ask, if you aren't a subscriber, to hit that subscribe button down here, give us a thumbs up and a like, and get in touch with us on Facebook. If you have any comments, you can leave them down here, or again, get with us on Facebook, and we'll be happy to talk to you about the new thing that we've gone over here today.